And we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe with coronavirus continuing to spread and Donald Trump continuing to give out misinformation like he did at the White House, like he did at the coronavirus press conference that took place today, which was another debacle. MSNBC and other news outlets really need to stop showing those, because at some point you become complicit in this chaos when you are broadcasting that stuff live. You should show snippets of it and fact check it, because it's just it's really becoming very hard to watch these, and I watch them every day. It's really becoming very hard to watch them. If he was a doctor, he would probably be sued for malpractice. Okay, I'm just saying. All right, so it's Sunday, April 5th, 2020. Hope everybody's doing well. We have a jam-packed show. If you've been watching my Facebook Live broadcast throughout the week, you know I've been doing them. I've done a few this past week. So on tonight's show, we'll deal with number one, an update on what's going on with coronavirus, with the spread of the coronavirus and the effort to mitigate it. Okay, and then also we saw this past Thursday that 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment. Okay, the previous week, 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment. Plus, you had 3.3 million who applied, who filed for unemployment the previous week, the week of March 16th. So we have 10 million Americans who have filed for unemployment, and there's going to be millions more. Okay, if you have been watching my broadcast, you follow me on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. You follow me on my personal, follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. You know I have been talking about how you have Republican governors who have not instituted stay-ins in their states. And when these Republican governors start doing this and start listening to the scientists, okay, like Governor Brian Kemp in Georgia, who stole the gubernatorial election from Stacey Abrams. Okay, he and Governor Ron DeSantis this past Wednesday issued stay-in orders in their states of Georgia for Brian Kemp and the state of Florida for Ron DeSantis. And then we saw this past, I think it was Wednesday, Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia did a press conference, and he said that he just found out within the last 24 hours that you could be asymptomatic and spread the coronavirus, meaning that you could not have symptoms but still be contagious and affect other people. He said he just found that out in the last 24 hours, and that was a game changer, and that's why he was issuing a stay-in order. Wait a second, your office is down the street from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention headquarters. The CDC is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. How is it you don't know this? But see, once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences. Once again, this is an example of what happens when you have incompetent people in government and they are in charge of protecting the lives of millions of people. So we're going to give you an update on what's going on with this. We saw 6.6 million Americans file for unemployment insurance, okay? And there are going to be millions more as these Republican governors start listening to science, okay, and start reading the book and listen to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. All right, they're going to realize that we're going to have to shut this down. Now, there's going to be another coronavirus stimulus bill as well. Okay, we saw the last one was $2.2 trillion. The next one will probably be between $2 trillion and $4 trillion. Why is that? Because you're going to have millions more. It's expected. CNBC.com had the article. They reported about a week ago. It's expected that you're going to have up to 47 million people filing for unemployment. it's expected that you're going to have up to 47 million people filing for unemployment. Okay. Now, what's going to take place over the next few weeks is these Republican governors who ignore science, like Donald Trump ignored science until he was forced to listen to the scientists, except when he's trying to upstage Dr. Anthony Fauci like he does at the coronavirus press conferences because he's afraid for Dr. Anthony Fauci to tell the truth. Okay? What's going to happen is as their constituents start filing for unemployment and they start overrunning these rural hospitals, then you're going to see their constituents putting pressure on them for relief, for stimulus checks, for small business loans, as they start having to shut down these businesses in these red states. Okay? So even though it's bad now, wait till their constituents start complaining and start putting pressure on these Republican senators. Okay? And see what happens then. So we'll deal with that. And then also we saw that the IRS released more information dealing with the more information dealing with small business loans, and then also how to get the stimulus checks quickly, etc. They also had an update for people who receive Social Security, and at first they had to file a tax return to be able to get the stimulus check. Now they don't. So we're going to share some of those updates with you. And then Stephanie Rule on MSNBC has been doing some really good reporting dealing with the debacle of issuing these small business loans. Okay, and so we'll deal with that because you listen to Donald Trump, the issuing of the small business loans, you would think it's going really well, but it's not. It's a debacle. It's horrific. And from her reporting, none of the loans have been paid out yet. Okay, and you're going to have the first of April. You have a lot of small businesses that have to pay their they have to pay for their leases. They have bills to pay, etc. Okay, and once again, wait till these Republican states start having. Wait till all this stuff really starts hitting these Republican states, and Republican senators feel the fire on their behinds. Okay, I mean, we haven't really seen anything yet. I'm telling you right now. You had a lot of deaths, and that's sad. I'm not discounting the deaths, but there are going to be more of them. Okay, there are going to be more. We just saw Surgeon General Jerome Adams was on the morning shows, the Sunday morning shows, and he said this coming week and the next week is going to be like Pearl Harbor. Okay, there are going to be a lot more deaths. Hopefully this will be the worst that it gets. Hopefully we'll reach the peak. Okay, and things will start to dissipate after that. There's still going to be more deaths after that. All right. We saw the Center for Disease Control and Prevention change its stance and recommend that people wear some type of facial covering, whether it's a mask or a scarf or what have you, to slow down the spread of coronavirus. Now, Donald Trump's not going to do that. He's not going to lead by example, right? He's not going to do that. And once again, this goes to you remember when Michelle Obama said the presidency doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are. You remember that? So a lot of the things that I warned people about in 2016 about Donald Trump and how he was totally unfit to be president, things like this, a lot of this, all that stuff is coming true. And once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences. This is an example of how elections have consequences. A presidential election is not about one person versus another person. It's about ideology, and it's about people's competence. It's about people who are mentally stable enough to be in charge of 330 million people and being able to protect them, being in charge of an economy, etc. Okay, we saw that the job numbers came out this past Friday, and we saw that the U.S. economy shed 701,000 jobs in the month of March, ending 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth, ending 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. Okay, that started in 2010. 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth ended in the month of March with this con man, Donald Trump, as president, who billed himself, who ran on the platform of he was such an economic genius, and he was such a big businessman, and he'll take this economy to places you've never seen before. He's just running it into the ground. Now, 2010, let me ask you a question. Who was president in 2010? Come on, let's tell the truth now. Who was president in 2010? 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. That started under President Barack Obama, who Trump gives absolutely no credit, and Trump is destroying the economy. Trump is destroying the economy. This did not have to happen. This is what happens when you have someone who is totally incompetent for the job, totally unqualified for the job. But if we study history, we know it's been a lot. Now, I know we have white listeners. Don't take this the wrong way, okay? But we know there's a long history of white people being unqualified for jobs. We know this. This is an example. Betsy DeVos is another example. Betsy DeVos is totally unqualified to be Secretary of Education. Betsy DeVos has no business. She should not even be a high school teacher. She should not be a lunch lady in a school. Totally unqualified. Who nominated her to be Secretary of Education? Donald Trump. And one of the things that we saw that she's been doing is rolling back the restrictions that the Obama administration put on for-profit colleges. Because remember schools like ITT Tech, okay, and Corinthian College, and you don't see any commercials for them anymore. You know why? Because President Obama shut them down. And the Obama administration put restrictions on for-profit colleges because many of them, what they were doing was they were disproportionately marketing to African American and Hispanic students, getting them to take out exorbitant student loans, because people want to better themselves. They want to go to school, support their families. They see the commercials. You too can be, an electrical engineer. You too can be a nurse. So they go and they do all this, and then they take the loans out, go through the program, and then oftentimes don't get placed in the jobs that have anything to do with their certificate or degree, whatever, and then they're stuck with the debt. Okay, so the Obama administration shut them down. Well, we see that Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Miseducation, nominated by Donald Trump, we see that they rolled back those restrictions on for-profit colleges. Didn't Donald Trump run a for-profit college called Trump University, a fake college? Didn't Donald Trump have to pay a $25 million? He had to pay a $25 million settlement to the state of New York, $24 million settlement, $1 million fine. State of New York. Remember that? He was running a for-profit college, a fake university. And then he nominates someone to be Secretary of Miseducation who's going to roll back restrictions on for-profit colleges, and the restrictions were helping to protect African Americans and Hispanics. See, this is an example of how elections have consequences. We look at what's taking place right now with the economy. And we're going to get into this. ProPublica has this big article, and other news outlets have picked it up. Essence.com has an article from April 5th, 2020. Early data shows coronavirus infecting and killing black people at alarming rate. Now, if you've been watching my videos about coronavirus, this stuff was largely avoidable. Because in January and February, there were intelligence reports and there were briefings that Donald Trump had on the growing crisis of coronavirus, and he ignored them. He ignored them. There's evidence to prove this. He ignored them. So when we understand things like principles of political self-defense and understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans, and understanding how elections have consequences, And not only do we have to protect gains that we've made and be able to assess gains that we made, but we also have to identify and protect threats. We have to be able to identify and protect threats. Those who have poor judgment, who will be in charge of 330 million people and make moves that are detrimental to our lives, like what's taking place right now. So we're going to deal with all this and more on tonight's show. We also saw that Detroit's own Lizzo provided lunch for emergency room staff at a Detroit hospital. We'll talk about that and more. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. You listen to the 9:10 a.m. Superstation of Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. All right, those just joining us, welcome back. It is Sunday, April 5th, 2020. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio, WFDF. So we're broadcasting, now we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. We're broadcasting on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. And we're also broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. Superstation's Facebook page as well, so follow them on Facebook also. Okay, so right before the break, I was giving an overview of what we're going to deal with on tonight's show, and then also we'll do. Okay, so yeah, we'll do an update on what's going on with coronavirus. All right. Okay, so on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now in behavior, what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on this show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Sign up for our email newsletter there as well, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, so, and I'm checking here, make sure we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page. But you can watch me also on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, I-M-H-O-T-E-P. All right, so let's look at updates on what's going on with coronavirus. Then I want to get into this information dealing with how it is impacting African Americans. All right, so we see that Americans are now being advised to steal, S-T-E-E-L, steal themselves for one of the most agonizing weeks in living memory, as Donald Trump and his advisors predicted during Sunday's White House briefing, Sunday, April 5th White House briefing, that parts of the country were nearing a peak of cases of COVID-19. All right. So those on YouTube, stand by just a second here. There's an issue with let's see. Those on YouTube, just stand by for a second. All right. Now, earlier in the day, the U.S. Surgeon General Jerome M. Adams warned that the coming week could be a national catastrophe comparable to Pearl Harbor or the September 11th, 2001 attacks, as COVID-19 deaths countrywide pushed past 9,500. Okay, and we've seen the deaths really this past week. We saw the deaths really increase. I think it was just last weekend that we approached 2,000 deaths. I think it was last weekend we approached 2,000 deaths. Now we're at 9,500. Experts say the true count is certainly higher. Now, if we look at the if we look at Johns Hopkins University and the count from Johns Hopkins University for coronavirus, one, we see that you have Worldwide, 1 million, over 1,200,000, over 1,270,000 actually, confirmed cases worldwide. Over 1,270,000 confirmed cases worldwide. We see that the country with the most number of cases is the U.S. Okay, so in the U.S. we're at over 330,000 cases in the U.S. Spain is at 131,000, a little over 131,000. Italy is at over 128,000. China is at over 82,000. Now, there has been criticism and skepticism about the numbers being reported by China. So we need to await more information on that. What we're also seeing is that worldwide, you have a little over 260,000 people who have been confirmed to have recovered from coronavirus as well. Okay, so worldwide we see that a little over 260,000 people have recovered. So that's a little more than 20. It's probably right about 22%. Now, if we look at the U.S., we see a little over 337,000 confirmed cases in the U.S. But confirmed cases of people who have recovered is 17,000. Okay, so we're looking at roughly about 5%. Roughly about 5% of the cases in the U.S. have recovered. So you're looking at 22% worldwide who have recovered from it. Reported cases of people who had it and recovered. 22% worldwide, whereas in the U.S., reported cases of people who have had it and recovered is right at about 5%. Now, about a week and a half ago in the U.S., it was about 0.8%, because I track the numbers. I look at the numbers every day on this. Okay. Once again, I had to explain to people, I've been studying coronavirus since late January 2020. I ain't just start studying this. Okay, I was studying this in February. So while people were talking about Gail and Oprah and Kobe and Jada Pinkett Smith and Snoop, and Jada said what Gail said about what Snoop said about Kobe and all that, while they were doing all that stuff, I was studying coronavirus. So I know where to go to get the information, because I've been studying this for our third month. All right. So we'll continue to watch these numbers here. Okay. Now, let's go back to the updates from the Washington Post. So earlier in the day, U.S. Surgeon General Jerome M. Adams warned that the coming week could be a national catastrophe comparable to Pearl Harbor or the September 11th, 2001 attacks, as COVID-19 deaths countrywide pushed past 9,500. Experts say the true count is certainly higher. So in the U.S., we're looking at a little over 9,600 right now. I've seen it skyrocket. Also, we see the number of reported cases really increase, because one of the things, keep in mind, these are lagging indicators that we're looking at. A lot of the tests that were given, it took 5 days for the results to come back for a lot of these tests. So as the tests went out, and right now there's been about 1.7 million people in the U.S. that have tested. That was reported on April 5th. Okay, so if you have this lag of 5 days in getting the results, as those tests went out, and the task force was telling us that 4 million tests were going out to people, as people are tested, and as you have that lag time of waiting for 5 days for the results to come back, okay, and people are notified, things like this, and then once the results come back, I don't know how long it takes for the actual recorded and then reported. I don't know what the lag time is there either. Okay, so that's something that I'm trying to find out. What's the lag time between the results actually coming back the results being recorded and then the results being reported. What's the lag time there? So when we have to keep in mind when we're looking at this information, these are lagging indicators. This stuff is at least a week behind. These are lagging indicators that we're looking at. All right. So let's go back to the updates from the Washington Post. Also, the call-in numbers, area code 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, give us a call. I have a ton of information here. Follow me on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, because I do broadcast throughout the week, and I have unlimited time there in general. I'm not restricted by time, so I can get deeper into this information. All right, so and then we have people watching us on our YouTube channel also. Let's see who we have here. On YouTube, we've got VC, Ruddy, Fly Girl, Sandra, Gregory Jones, Al Rashid, Alma, Lonnie Adams, Sean, just a few of the people watching this on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and on 9:10 a.m. Superstations Facebook fan page, we got Bruce, Kenneth, Big Will, just a few of the people watching this there also. Okay. All right, so let's continue here. And once again, the call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, let's continue here. I was trying to update something here. All right. Okay, so we saw that also one of Donald Trump's best friends, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, was admitted to a hospital because of persistent symptoms of the coronavirus. A spokesman confirmed Sunday. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson tested positive for the virus 10 days ago and has been self-isolating at his official residence. Hopefully he wasn't infecting people because he wasn't wearing a mask. Hopefully he wasn't infecting people along the way. You know, just like hopefully Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, who took a coronavirus test and then went to the U.S. Senate, and you got all these 60-year-old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old senators. He went in. He went to the Senate workout room after he took a coronavirus test. Now, this, if we look at some of the most significant updates, we see that Donald Trump continue to push hydroxychloroquine as a way to treat and prevent the coronavirus during Sunday's debacle of a press conference. And he started originally. See, it's important to know. Originally, there was not a press conference scheduled for Sunday. Okay, originally for April 5th, there was originally not one scheduled. On MSNBC, one of the things that they pointed out was that the time that Trump started his press conference, which was right around 7 p.m., I think it was, Eastern Standard Time, Joe Biden was scheduled to do a live broadcast also. Okay, one. Two, people are suspecting that Trump is doing them on Sunday around 7 p.m. to preempt 60 Minutes as well. So the FDA has given only limited emergency use authorization for the drug hydroxychloroquine. Now, we also saw that Washington Governor Jay Inslee, who's a Democrat, said it is, quote, ludicrous that we do not have a national effort, end quote, for procuring badly needed medical supplies, as Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, Republican lamented, quote, a global jungle that we're competing in, end quote. So the states are still trying to get ventilators. The states are still having to compete with other states to get ventilators. Governor Jay Pritzker of Illinois is competing with Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, who's competing with Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, etc., because Trump is derelict in his duties, as opposed to the federal government taking the lead on this, okay, to get the ventilators. All right, you've got Jared Kushner, who was at a press conference this past week, why is Jared Kushner involved in the effort to fight coronavirus? I thought Mike Pence was heading up the task force. Why is Jared Kushner there? Did Jared Kushner bring peace to the Middle East? Wasn't that what he was tasked with? Did Jared Kushner bring peace to the Middle East and nobody told me about that? Jared Kushner has no expertise in dealing with a catastrophe, except maybe owing Deutsche Bank $285 million, and trying to still get people who were tenants in his apartment buildings to still pay their rent during this catastrophe. Why is Jared Kushner there? See, once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences. This is what happens when you have incompetent people running the government. This is what happens when the Little Rascals and the Three Stooges are running the government. Except it's not a comedy. It costs people their lives. So we saw that a decline in new coronavirus-related deaths in the state of New York, the hardest hit area in the United States, could be a sign that the state is nearing the apex or just a blip, Governor Andrew Cuomo said. A lot of people are referring to Andrew Cuomo as President Cuomo. He's much more presidential than Trump. I watch his press conferences every day. He has much more factual information, much more relevant information in the press conferences. Now, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio said the city's supply of ventilators will last an additional 48 to 72 hours after warning they could run out on Sunday. We see the declining number of cases in Italy, Spain, and Australia have the countries cautiously optimistic that they are flattening the curve. Okay, check out the updates from Washington Post. They have really good live updates dealing with coronavirus. Also, NBCnews.com has updates as well. Now, Donald Trump continues to push unproven drugs as coronavirus treatment. Government has stockpiled 29 million doses, he said. So he talked about this at the press conference that happened today. Okay, and he really Dr. Anthony Fauci was asked a question from one of the reporters about hydroxychloroquine and things like this, and Trump interrupted him because Trump knows Anthony Fauci is going to tell the truth. And I think at some point, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I really like and respect, I think he's going to have to come to the realization that he may have to leave the task force. He may have to leave the task force because he can't speak freely next to a con man, fraud, and a liar like Trump. He can't speak freely next to him because Trump interrupts him. At some point, at some point he may realize that he may be able to do more good away from the task force than on stage with Trump. So in the 2 weeks since Donald Trump first promoted hydroxychloroquine as a way to treat and prevent the novel coronavirus, he has continued to push this unproven drug during White House news briefings. And he did so Sunday, April 5th, just minutes into the opening statement. Donald Trump, who admitted he's not a doctor, okay? And remember, he declared war on the scientists also. Got rid of a lot of scientists at the Center for Disease Control, okay? Remember going back to February 8th, 2020, when he was at a rally in South Carolina, he said that coronavirus was a Democrats' new hoax. Remember in February when he was on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News, he called it Corona flu because he was basically saying it's just like the flu. But Donald Trump said, "What do I know? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor." He said, "But I have common sense." Well, that's debatable. I don't think what poll was taken that determined that Donald Trump has common sense. Donald Trump does not have common sense. I'm sorry. No, he does not. No, he does not have common sense. He said the FDA feels good about it. As you know, they approved it. End quote. Now, the Food and Drug Administration has not approved hydroxychloroquine or any other drug to treat COVID-19. The disease caused by the virus. Donald Trump continues to lie. We're going to have to ask the question, how many people are going to die because Donald Trump continues to lie to the American people? How many people are going to die because Donald Trump continues to stand there at these White House coronavirus task force briefings and continue to lie to the American people? Everybody on stage with him is going to have to ask the question, do we want to be complicit with this lie that he's telling? What happens to our reputations when we stand here next to this man who continues to lie to the American people? So the Food and Drug Administration has not approved hydroxychloroquine or any other drug to treat COVID-19. It has given a limited emergency use authorization for hydroxychloroquine, which was popularized as a drug to treat and prevent malaria. A few small anecdotal studies suggest that the drug may relieve the disease's acute respiratory symptoms and clear the virus. While health experts warn that its well-known side effects could become common with wide use. Donald Trump asked, what did you have to lose? We said he asked the question. I watched the press conference, as painful as it was to watch, but I knew I had to do the show tonight, so I sat there and watched it. I'd rather have a root canal than watch this liar stand up here and tell these lies to the American people. And he's going to cost people their lives because he has no conscience. There's something wrong with him. A few small anecdotal studies suggest that the drug may relieve the diseases, the coronavirus, acute respiratory symptoms, and clear the virus, while health experts warn that its well-known side effects could become common with wide use. Donald Trump stood there and said, he asked people, if you're sick with, he basically said, if you're sick with coronavirus, you take these experimental drugs. He said, what do you have to lose? You have your life to lose. He doesn't talk about the side effects. But it's interesting that Donald Trump said, what do you have to lose? Isn't that what he asked black people back in 2016? And there's less African Americans now with health insurance. We see coronavirus is kicking our behinds. We see that a lot of these businesses, this is why the people that were talking about in 2016, black people running around talking about we're not going to vote, we're just going to do economic empowerment, invest in the stock market. Did you see that the stock market ended its worst quarter in decades? How's your 401k plan doing now? A lot of those businesses, they said we're just going to do economic empowerment, we're not going to vote. A lot of those businesses are shut down. And if they're not shut down, they're on their last leg because their revenue has been drastically cut. I'm all for economic empowerment. I've been preaching that for years. My degree's in business administration. I've taught entrepreneurship, help black people start businesses, help them get funding. But I ain't dumb enough to know that I'm not dumb enough to believe that politics don't influence business. Government creates the environment that businesses operate within. It's government that's shutting down businesses now. It's government that's regulating businesses and putting health stipulations and shutting down non-essential businesses. You think elections don't have consequences? Either you're high or you're ignorant. Now, some people mean well and don't know any better, but some people do know any better and they're just lying. (313-778-7600) is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM the Superstation, the Future Radio. Michael Imhotep. You know we're here Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, normally I'm in the studios at 910 AM the Superstation, but we know Governor Gretchen Whitmer has instituted a executive order, which is law, to shut down non-essential businesses, right? So all the stipulation, this is how, see, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. And politics is the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Business is regulated by government. Business is regulated by law. So we're broadcasting from this studio because the radio station has us all working from home, broadcasting from home. You look at MSNBC, a lot of them are broadcasting from their homes because various states have stay orders, stay-in orders, stay-at-home orders, except you're coming out for essential things. A lot of businesses have been shut down by government. So we're posting the call-in number here, 313-778-7600 if you have a question or comment. Oops. Okay, and then JT, if we have any calls, let me know. Okay, because we'll go to the calls. All right, but I want to give you these updates here. I know people be. Okay, let's go to line. Who do we have on line one? Okay, John, welcome to the African History Network show. John, tell us where you're calling from. All right, John on the east side of Detroit. I'm all right, man. How's it going?
The spokesman from South Carolina, the Congressman,
Clyburn, James Clyburn.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. He think that we need another stimulus. He said this ain't no good enough. And someone was talking about the government bring back the government creating.
There's going to be another stimulus bill. Nancy Pelosi has already been talking about another stimulus bill. I've said there's going to be another one because I've been going through studying this one. This bill came out before the 6 million people filed for unemployment. Before it's revealed that 6 million people filed for unemployment this past week. There are going to be more people to file for unemployment. CNBC reported in about the last week to 10 days that it's estimated that up to 47 million people are going to apply for unemployment. You're going to have people who are going to need paid sick leave that were not covered for paid sick leave in the second coronavirus bill that was $100 billion. So you're going to have another one also, and that the next one is probably going to be between $2 to $4 trillion.
Yeah, and this will be next one should go to the low income people, because they the ones that pay the most, the baddest, and they said that it wouldn't be too far to talk about the WPA and the good road that we and so forth.
Right,
so,
yeah, like the New Deal with Roosevelt. Yeah, you and what's taking place now. You're going to have that. You're going to have more business loans that go out. They're going to have to fix the process with the business loans because it's a debacle. Okay, it's very hard to get these loans. A lot of the banks, because the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is working with about 1,800 banks and credit unions. A lot of the guidelines are not clear. Okay, and like the day before people could start applying for the loans, the Treasury Department had to change some of the guidelines. So this is a whole debacle. But once again, everybody, and John knows this, this is an example of what happens when you have incompetent people running the government who have no clue what they're doing.
That's right. And when this virus came out, he got them two clowns, one from Indiana and one from Texas, that know a doggone thing about it and what they were doing and what they were talking about. And you see how that happened. So you said that was a joke, no doubt about it.
Right.
And I just want to ask you, what is President Barack Obama saying about this?
Well, President Obama hasn't said a whole lot about this because there is an unwritten rule that there's only one president at a time.
I know.
So you usually don't have a previous president commenting or criticizing a current president during a time of catastrophe. There's an unwritten rule that there's one president at a time. So just like President George W. Bush hasn't really said anything, there's an unwritten rule. So you really won't see that.
Oh well, okay. Well, I just wanted to know if the socialists. Sanders, what are they thinking about him now?
Well, I just saw an article today that a lot of Bernie Sanders' top advisors are trying to convince him to end his campaign. He thinks he has a small path to victory. I like to see where that path is. Show me that path to victory. The handwriting's on the wall. Bernie's a nice guy. I like him. The handwriting's on the wall. You are not going to get the nomination.
Well, they talking about a broken convention. They wanted this governor of New York to throw his head in the right. That's what I heard. You
said a broker convention for what now?
A broker convention. That case that the people that throw this governor head in the ring with the governor of New York. They want him to get in the
yeah, but see, Governor Cuomo of New York. I haven't heard Governor Cuomo say that he wants to be vice president. Governor Cuomo is dealing with a catastrophe in New York, in the state of New York.
That's right.
So I haven't heard people are saying, "Oh, Governor Cuomo should run for vice president with Joe Biden." I haven't heard Governor Cuomo say that he wants to run for vice president. He's dealing with a catastrophe in New York.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about this.
Yeah.
New York is hard. And this guy out there won't tell him the stuff that he needs. That's another thing.
Well, that's Trump.
I don't know what he's doing.
Because Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump does not know. See, people have to understand. Trump never ran a Fortune 500 corporation. A lot of his money he made from licensing his name. So Trump does not know what he's doing in handling a catastrophe like this. Because if he did, he would have been paying attention to the intelligence community when they were briefing him in January and February about coronavirus, and he would have taken action then. He didn't do that. And then you go back to May 2018 when his National Security Council advisor John Bolton fired Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer. Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer headed up the Global Health Pandemic Council team for the National Security Council. Okay, and that position was never filled after they let go of him. It was never filled. So when you go and look at the moves that were made, you look at October 2019 when the Predict pandemic team was shut down by the Trump administration, and that was used in the George W. Bush administration and the President Barack Obama administration. There was you go and you see incident after incident after incident where you had scientists fired, you have funding cut to the Center for Disease Control, you had pandemic teams shut down. Okay. So there were flags all along the way. And this is the result of what happens when you have somebody who says that I don't like having thousands of people around me doing nothing, referring to the scientists. And he said when we need them, we can just call them back. It doesn't work like that. You're not calling people back to General Motors to make more Escalades or make more Cadillacs, and you lay them off when demand goes down. Okay, I'm getting some feedback, John. Okay, John, thanks for calling. We got to go. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay, JT, we have another caller.
Yeah, we got TJ on line too.
TJ. All right, TJ. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, TJ.
Hey, T.A. Brother Imhotep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking my call.
No problem.
I want to quickly first say that I'm going to definitely get your information to start supporting you through donations to keep up the good work.
Oh, well, I can get that to everybody right now. Just 1 second. I'll get that to everybody right now. You can donate $1 through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. I'm glad you mentioned it, man, because I forgot to say that tonight. I got all these articles in front of me. I forgot to say that. We definitely need help. The $ the AHN show through Cash App, number one. 2, through PayPal, paypal.me, M-E, / the AHN show, paypal.me / the AHN show. Or you can go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, right on the home page, click on the yellow donate button. Go ahead, TJ. Thanks for reminding me, because I did forget to say that.
Okay. And the only one I caught was the AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and I think that'll be...
Okay. I'll give it again after you give your comment. After you ask your questions, I'll give it again. Go ahead.
Well, I've got a few comments I want to quickly make.
Go ahead.
First,
you want to hold them over? We actually have to go to break in a minute.
Oh, okay. Hold on, TJ. We got to go to break. I'll hold you over, and we'll get all your questions and comments after the break, okay? Just stand by. Yeah, because we're up against a break. Okay, you listen to 910 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep, the African History Network Show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network Show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, April 5th. 2020, and we are live. We are in our second hour. Time goes by so quickly. That's why you have to make sure you watch me during the week on my Facebook fan page, the African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. So when I broadcast during the week, I have more time and I can get deeper into this information, okay? Also, we know that April 4th, 2020 was the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as well. So we posted some articles dealing with that on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, okay? So those just joining us in our first hour, I talked some about, I did an update on what's going on with coronavirus. You know that we have over 337,000 cases in the U.S. with over 9,600 deaths. We also have a little more than 17,000 people in the U.S. that have recovered, fully recovered from coronavirus as well, reported cases of that. We see that worldwide we're a little more than 1.2 million cases reported worldwide. We have some more information in our second hour dealing with this. I'm also going to deal with the updates from the IRS regarding stimulus checks and how to make sure you get your stimulus check quickly. Updates came out on April 1st. If you watch my broadcast throughout the week, you know I've been talking about that. Also, ProPublica.org had a big article, and we're going back to the phone lines in just a minute. I think it's TJ, who we had before the break. I'm coming to you just a second here. So the ProPublica.org had a big article that a lot of publications and news outlets are reporting on, dealing with how early data shows coronavirus infecting and killing black people at an alarming rate. We know Essence.com picked up that article on April 5th. And also we see that MichiganRadio.org has a piece from April 5th, 2020. Black people are 40% of COVID-19 deaths in Michigan. What does that mean? Now, African Americans make up 12%, about 12% of the Michigan population, but make up 40% of the coronavirus deaths in Michigan. Okay, so we see this is having a huge impact on African Americans. Now, early on, all the conspiracy theorists and all this nonsensical BS, they were talking about how black people can't get coronavirus. Where are those people now? Where are the people who were saying that black people couldn't get coronavirus? Where are they now? Were these some of the same people who were telling us in 2016 not to vote? Were these some of those same people? Then also we see that Detroit Free Press and News1.com picked up this article from the Detroit Free Press. Singer Lizzo, Detroit's own Lizzo, because Lizzo's originally from Detroit. A lot of people don't know this. Detroit's own Lizzo provides lunch for emergency room staff at the Detroit hospital. We'll talk about that. Let's go back to the phone lines. I think it's JT. TJ? Is it TJ that we have on the line? Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay, go ahead, man. Thanks. Thanks for TJ. Yeah, thanks for standing by. Go ahead with your question or comment, TJ.
Okay, listen, I have a few comments real quick.
Go ahead.
This is just my opinion, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed how reporters from different television stations like Gayle King have cheered Dr. Fauci for his honesty and the way that he has contradicted a lot of the things that Trump has said.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, even he has not been truly forthcoming, because an expert in his position, with his history with HIV and other types of viruses and diseases, he knew early on that people should have been protecting themselves with face masks, gloves, and other ways of trying to distance themselves from contact with this virus. I just...
Well,
yes,
the face,
cheer and think that, you know.
But when we deal with the face mask is not necessarily so much so protecting you. The face mask is protecting other people, meaning that if you are asymptomatic, this is why the CDC was slow to recommend some type of facial covering, and what it does is the facial covering gives people a false sense of security. So what the experts are saying, and I already knew this, is that the facial covering is not a reason to stop practicing social distancing. You have to do both. With the facial covering, what that does is, the reason why it slows down the spread is because if you are asymptomatic, it reduces the chance of you infecting other people. It does that more so than the facial covering actually protecting you from getting it. Okay? And then the gloves really don't do much. The gloves give a false sense of security, because the gloves, that surface can become contaminated, and then people think the gloves are protecting them. No, the gloves are not protecting you, because you can't touch your face with the gloves. The gloves are just another layer of covering over your hand. But the problem is when you touch your face, when you touch your mouth, when you touch your eyes. So you can't do that with gloves. And then with the gloves, people have a false sense of security. And see, one of the things I do when I wear gloves, I wash my gloves just like I wash my hands. I actually wash my hands with the gloves on, because I know the gloves can become contaminated. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I personally, because I'm a handyman and I'm in the construction field, I just bought multiple boxes of those gloves.
Right.
I still believe that they helped one way or another, and it could have helped to reduce the spread earlier than what it had been reported. And as I say, now they're easing into recommending face coverings, gloves, and things. So I'm still not that impressed with the way Dr. Fauci has been forthcoming. I still think he lacked some.
Well, part of the problem is that this is a new virus. Part of the problem is this is a new virus. This popped up November 2019 in Wuhan, China. This is a new virus, so they're learning as more tests are done on COVID-19, which is actually SARS-CoV-2. As more tests are done on it, they're learning about how it can survive on different types of surfaces for days. And then as we saw the Diamond Princess cruise ship, where a lot of the people were quarantined on the cruise ship, we saw that the virus survived on surfaces for up to 17 days. So the reason why new information is coming out, and I'm on the CDC's website basically every day and looking at updates, the reason why new information is coming out is because this is a new virus and studies are constantly being done on it. So as they learn more about the virus, they're updating the public accordingly.
Okay. Well, you talked about the timeline also, though, that information was originally available to people in the cabinet, Trump's cabinet, whatever.
There were briefings.
Action was taken.
Yeah, there were briefings that took place in January and February 2020. There were briefings dealing with COVID-19. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And so my point is, how do we know that Trump and just how ignorant or whatever you want to call it, it is. How do we know that he and people around him didn't intentionally hold off for more sinister reasons? We don't know that, but and I don't mean to have some conspiracy theory, but how do we know he doesn't? Because we know that he loves money, we know he loves power, and we know he's not deserving of any of it. But I do believe that some of his $2 trillion money will be misdirected and will somehow make it into his pockets or others around him.
Hopefully not, and there are a lot of people watching for that. That's why stipulations were put on the money, like the $500 billion for the various industries, like the cruise line industry and the airline industry, and there were stipulations put in the bill that it could not benefit any of Trump's businesses, any businesses owned by his children, and any businesses that were owned or partially owned by members of Congress also. So if something like that happens, man, you're going to have, if something like that happens, you're going to see Republican senators in an uproar over this also. I guarantee you, you're going to see some Republican senators in an uproar over that because they know it is wrong, and they know that that's taking away money that could go to other businesses that would benefit their constituents also. Go ahead, because I got to get these other calls.
Just like with Iraq, and they mentioned all these hundreds of millions of dollars that possibly in cash. I don't know if that was substantiated or not, but I remember when that Iraq war and things were going on, they talked about all of that cash money that was just dropped over there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's never been truly accounted for. So I'm just thinking back.
Yeah,
last comment.
Yeah, but just 1 second. This is going to be regulated a whole lot more than that, because everybody's watching. This is going to be regulated a whole lot more than that. Go ahead with your next comment.
My last comment is about Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched him on television today, and in my opinion, I think he really had a chance to establish himself against Trump and make some true statements about how he has dropped the ball on this whole situation. And he stuttered. And I think he was really light and passive in his comments about Trump. And
was this an interview? Was this an interview he did today, or was this his live broadcast?
Yes, he was on NBC.
Okay, because I've seen him on MSNBC this past week, and he did really good.
Yeah, well, he was on with George Stephanopoulos.
Well, that's ABC. That's ABC.
Disappointed in how soft he was.
What was that? That's ABC. George Stephanopoulos.
Yes,
that's ABC. Yeah.
I was disappointed, man. And I think that if they get into a debate, Trump, just because of how vile and evil and angry Trump can be towards a person, I think he's biting up, and I hope it doesn't lessen his chances of winning this next election.
See, we have to understand the difference. We have to understand the difference between him doing an interview and you have people actually dying. Him doing the actual interview and him doing the debate. Those are two different things, because I saw interviews that he did during the week, and he is explaining what things that Trump should do, but he's not going to sit there and call Trump names and things like this while people are actually dying during this catastrophe. See, see, there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge tells you what to say. Wisdom tells you when to say it, how to say it, and when to be quiet. You have to have a balance between knowledge and wisdom. A lot of people right now, because they're losing their jobs, because their mortgage is due the first of the month, their rent is due, there have been stories on MSNBC showing unprecedented long lines at food banks. A lot of people right now don't necessarily want to hear Joe Biden criticizing Trump when people are really trying to figure out where they're going to get food from and what they're going to do about their rent. So people have to really have to understand this balancing this balancing act that has to take place right now. But thanks for calling, TJ. Keep listening, okay? Keep listening. Thanks for calling. Okay. JT, we have any more calls?
No.
Okay. Calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. Superstation Future Radio. If we look at this article here, because JT brought up this, well, I talked about it, and TJ brought this up, the caller, March 20th, 2020, from Washington Post. You've heard me talk about this article before, and I have a lot of other articles dealing with this type of information. U.S. intelligence reports from January and February, dealing with 2020, warned about a likely pandemic. This is March 20th, 2020, from Washington Post. It's a huge story. You go read this yourself. U.S. intelligence reports from January and February warned about a likely pandemic. The intelligence reports did not predict when the virus might land on U.S. shores or recommend particular steps that public health officials should take. Issues outside the purview of the intelligence agencies. But they did track the spread of the virus in China and later in other countries, and warned that Chinese officials appeared to be minimizing the severity of the outbreak. Taken together, the reports and warnings painted an early picture of a virus that showed the characteristics of a globe-encircling pandemic that could require governments to take swift actions to contain it. But despite that constant flow of reporting, Trump continued publicly and privately to play down the threat the virus posed to Americans. Lawmakers too, T-O-O, lawmakers too did not grapple with the virus in earnest until the month of March, as officials scrambled to keep citizens in their homes and hospitals braced for a surge in patients suffering from COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. Intelligence agencies, now, if we go look at this, Democrats were sounding the alarm largely before Republicans were. We go back and look at Chuck Schumer, I think it was about January 26th, okay, when he talked about the rise in the severity of COVID-19, things like this. Intelligence agencies, quote, have been warning on this since January, end quote, said a U.S. official who had access to intelligence reporting that was disseminated to members of Congress and their staffs, as well as to officials in the Trump administration, and who, along with others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe sensitive information. Quote, Donald Trump may not have been expecting this, but a lot of other people in the government were. They just couldn't get him to do anything about it, end quote, this official said. The system was blinking red, end quote. Spokespeople for the CIA and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI, declined to comment, and a White House spokesman rebutted criticism of Trump's response. Of course they did. And then we also know that, I talked about this before, I talked about this when the story broke. Senator Richard Burr, Republican of North Carolina, sold dozens of stocks worth between $628,000 and $1.72 million. Actually, February 13th, I think it was February 13th, he did 33 stock trades. All of them were sales. Okay? And Senator Richard Burr just happens to be the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And he was privy to virtually all of the highly classified reporting on the... Now, it was February 7th that he co-authored an op-ed article for Fox News with Senator Lamar Alexander, Republican from Kentucky, Republican from Tennessee, Lamar Alexander, who is retiring at, I think is at the end of the year or something. And they wrote an op-ed February 7th, 2020, really talking about how America is prepared for this coronavirus and really downplaying concerns about coronavirus. And we also know it was, I think it was February 27th when he had the meeting at the Tar Heel Club, the luncheon at the Tar Heel Club, where he was warning the members at the Tar Heel Club, those at the luncheon, and it costs like between $500 and $10,000 to be a member of the Tar Heel Club. He was warning them that coronavirus was basically going to be on the level of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. and to prepare themselves for it. While in public, he's downplaying the severity of it. Okay? So yeah. So you had some key people who were in denial. You had people in the Trump administration. Now, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar was warning Trump in January, like around January 18th, was warning Trump. Okay? But so you had people in the intelligence community who were briefing Trump. You had people like Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar, okay, who are warning him, but he's not taking action on this. And then I encourage people to read the article from foreignpolicy.com by Laurie Garrett, January 31st, 2020. And we're coming up on a break here. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. As it improvises its way through a public health crisis, the United States has never been less prepared for a pandemic. Come on. All right, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, April 5th, 2020, and we are live. This time goes by extremely quickly. Here we have 2 hours on 9:10 a.m. This is, so April 2020 is my 4-year anniversary of broadcasting the African History Network show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. And March of 2020 marked my 10th year anniversary of doing radio in general. Okay, so follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. The African History Network. Follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, as in Paul. And then also you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me, /the AHN Show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. All my DVD lectures are available at our website, also digital downloads, things like that as well. Okay, so we're still on YouTube. We have Buccaneer, Lorinda, VC, Jalana, Margaret are watching us on my YouTube channel. So right before the break, I was dealing with some articles that talked about how the U.S. is unprepared for a pandemic, but also warning signs that Trump ignored. Then we look at the Hill.com, had an article from around March 17th, 2020. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. The Obama administration walked incoming Trump administration officials through a hypothetical scenario in which a pandemic worse than the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which shut down cities like Seoul, Korea, and London, England. They walked them through this hypothetical exercise in 2017, Politico.com reported. During the briefing, the Trump administration officials were told such a pandemic would likely lead to circumstances such as shortages of ventilators, and that a coordinated national response would be paramount, according to documents obtained by Politico.com. Because there's evidence, there's a paper trail of the Trump administration officials present during the meeting. About 66% no longer work in the White House. All right, so we saw this past week that Detroit's own Lizzo helped support Detroit in this time of need. Songstress Lizzo is rallying around healthcare workers who are on the front line of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. According to AtlantaBlackStar.com, the Detroit native provided lunch for emergency room staff at a hospital in her hometown. Also, the Detroit Free Press reported on this, and they tweeted about it. In the article from news1.com, they have the tweet from in here from the Detroit Free Press. Aware that hospital workers are working longer shifts due to the rise in coronavirus cases, the singer Lizzo, whose real name is Melissa Vivian Jefferson, decided she wanted to show her appreciation for their dedication. She recently treated the staff at Henry Ford Hospital with lunch. She said, quote, "I just want to say thank you so much for all that you're doing during this pandemic. It's definitely not easy, and you guys are putting yourselves on the front lines, and because of that, I wanted to treat y'all to a meal," she said in a video shared by the hospital on Twitter. She has also provided lunch for healthcare workers at the University of Minnesota and the University of Washington. Now, according to one of Lizzo's representatives, she plans on doing the same for staff members at other healthcare facilities. Lizzo has been using her platform to spread light amid the global pandemic. She took to Instagram to lead a meditation session and play the flute. She said, quote, "A meditation and mantra to promote healing during this global crisis," end quote, she posted. She went on to say, "Use at your own pace, love you," end quote. Now, many people in the music industry are stepping up to support coronavirus relief efforts, I should say. Singer Rihanna's nonprofit organization, the Clara Lionel Foundation, donated $5 million to organizations leading relief initiatives in the United States, Africa, and the Caribbean. This is what Rihanna's doing, okay? Her foundation donated $5 million to organizations leading relief initiatives in the United States, Africa, and the Caribbean. Singer Ciara and her husband, NFL player Russell Wilson, teamed up with the nonprofit Food Lifeline and pledged to donate 1 million meals to individuals living in Seattle in an effort to combat food insecurity. Okay, so these are some good things that, you know, African American actors, actresses, entertainers are doing. A lot of times people, you know, will criticize them if they say something on social media that's wrong or say something in the interview that's wrong. But when they do things right, a lot of times some of those same people are not so quick to pay, you know, to report the good things that they do. So I hope the people who were talking about Lizzo and her lyrics and her body and things like that, I hope they report the good things that Lizzo was doing also. I'm just okay. So let's look at updates quickly here from the IRS dealing with the stimulus check. So NBCnews.com had an article from March 31st, 2020, updated April 2nd, 2020. I talked about this in my broadcast throughout the week. I did that, I think it was April 2nd, 2020, so check that out. IRS releases more info on how to get coronavirus stimulus checks ASAP. IRS releases more info on how to get coronavirus stimulus checks ASAP. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said payments will go out within 3 weeks for people who have their direct deposit information on file with the IRS. Okay, so some of them may go out in 3 weeks, but it's, you know, a lot of people are going to have to wait for 2-3 months for this money. Okay, and we look at the debacle that's taking place with the loan process for small businesses. I'm going to come to that in just a minute. So new information from the IRS shines more light on what people can do to get their checks from the government as quickly as possible, while many families worry about paying the bills and buying food during the coronavirus crisis, which has cost millions of people their jobs. For Americans eligible for stimulus cash under the new relief law, the fastest way to receive it is to make sure they filed a tax return for 2019 or 2018 with bank information so the government can deposit the money directly. Okay, so I've talked about this before. If you have to, I'm going to give you the name of two forms. If you have to change the way your deposit is made, whether you want a paper check, whether you want direct deposit into a bank account, if you change bank accounts, okay, since you last filed your taxes, you want to use IRS Form 8888. IRS Form 8888, which is at irs.gov. That is the allocation of refund. And it lists the different ways that you can have a refund allocated. And however you choose to have it allocated, that's the way the stimulus check would be paid also. Okay. If you have to do a change of address because you have moved since you filed your last tax return, that is Form 8822 at irs.gov. Form 8822 at irs.gov. Normally it takes 4 to 6 weeks for that to be processed. Hopefully they'll do it faster now. People don't understand what's really involved in being president and being able to coordinate various government departments and understanding the purpose of the government departments. So Social Security recipients will not need to file a tax return if they are not otherwise required to do so. The agency in a shift in policy midweek. So originally, when I was reporting on the information about the stimulus checks, people who receive Social Security and SSI, the disability, things like this, they had to also file a tax return. That has been changed. That change took place this week, either April 1st, April 2nd. So when you go to irs.gov/coronavirus, irs.gov/coronavirus, they have the updates there, okay? So the IRS says it will use people's 2019 tax returns to calculate eligibility and automatically send the money to those who qualify. If they have not filed a 2019 tax return, it will be based upon the 2018 tax return. If they don't have a bank account, they will get a paper check at their last address. All right. Now it's expected that paper checks could take up to 3 weeks for people, 3 months, up to 3 months for people to get the paper checks. Now the IRS said other Americans who were not required to file taxes in the last 2 years will have to file a simple tax return. Will have to file a simple tax return with basic information like filing status, number of dependents, and bank information in order to get the money. Okay, this is another update that came out. The IRS said other Americans who were not required to file taxes in the last 2 years will have to file a simple tax return with basic information like filing status, number of dependents, and bank information in order to get money. That excludes Social Security recipients and railroad retirees. That excludes Social Security recipients and railroad retirees, as the agency said it will use Form SSA 1099 and Form RRB 1099 forms where available. So if you receive Social Security or you are a railroad retiree, you don't have to file a tax return to get the stimulus check, okay? And if you go to irs.gov/coronavirus, they have the updated information there giving you guidance. Now, we know that, and you've heard me talk about this, payments of $1,200 per person with an additional $500 per child under 17 will be made to U.S. residents with Social Security numbers who earn under $75,000 a year. The amount decreases by $5 per every $100 earned. That after that, zeroing out at $99,000. For married couples, the phase-out range is $150,000 to $198,000. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said payments will go out, quote, within 3 weeks, end quote, for people who have their direct deposit information on file with the IRS. He said, quote, we will create a web-based system for people where if we don't have their direct deposit information, they can upload it so that they can get the money immediately as opposed to checks in the mail. Okay, he said this last Sunday on Face the Nation. Now, as of yet, that website don't exist. Okay, so once again, you're dealing with the federal government, especially this incompetent federal government. All right. So a lot of people have been asking the question, why fathers who owe back child support, why don't they get a stimulus check? Blah blah blah. Right? You've heard me talk about this. That is not something new. That is based upon existing tax law that goes back to 1996. If we look at Wall Street Journal had an article March 31st, 2020, coronavirus stimulus payments, when will they be sent and who is eligible? Okay, coronavirus stimulus payments, when will they be sent and who is eligible? This is from the Wall Street Journal, March 31st, 2020. If we look at page 5, it asks the question, and let me know if we have any callers, JT. What about child support? The normal IRS rules for child support and tax refunds will apply. The normal IRS rules for child support and tax refunds will apply, which means that refunds for people. This means that refunds for people who are behind on their payments may be smaller. So they may get a reduced check depending upon how much they owe. They may not get a check. But what I think many people are missing is that the IRS does not keep the money. The IRS works with state governments, and that money goes to the custodial parent of the child. So the money will benefit the child. So some people would say, well, what about the father? Well, other people will ask, well, what about the child? Now, what I think a lot of people are missing is that many of these fathers, if they are working and now are unemployed, they can file for unemployment. One, through the state that they're in, and get unemployment. Two, they will get an additional $600 a week for up to 4 months in additional unemployment benefits from the federal government, which is part of this $2.2 trillion bill, the stimulus bill, the CARES bill. That's part of that. So in addition, so people who file for unemployment, now like the 10 million people just filed these past 2 weeks, okay, and millions more who are going to file in subsequent weeks, they will not only get unemployment from the state government that they live in, they will automatically get an additional $600 a week for up to 4 months in additional unemployment benefits from the federal government. 600 times 2 is 1,200. So even if they owe back child support, they can still file for unemployment and get unemployment. And then because of this bill, people who, the 5.8 million, 5.9 million people who are part of the gig economy, they drive Uber, they drive Lyft, things like this, they can apply and get unemployment. Previously, they could not do that. People who are independent contractors and things like this, barbers and hairstylists, those in the real estate industry, because of this bill, they can apply and get unemployment. Previously, they could not do that. Starting in Michigan, starting on April 10th, those various independent contractors and things like this can apply at Michigan.gov for unemployment benefits. So a lot of times people focus on these headlines and focus on the viral YouTube videos. Okay, fathers don't get $1,200 stimulus check. And just so we understand, the $1,200 stimulus check is a one-time stimulus check, but you can apply for unemployment and get an additional $600 a week for up to 4 months. 600 times 2 is 1,200. So a lot of times people focus on what's popular and what's viral and gets the 50,000, 100,000 views, but not what's factual. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Who we have on? Who do we have on? Let's see. Who we have on? What's this, line 3? Who we have on the line? Caller, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Hey, Brother Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Charles.
This is who?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I can't hear you. Your voice is kind of muffled. This is who?
Charles.
Charles, okay.
From Detroit.
Calling from Detroit. Okay, Charles, go ahead.
Just wanted to give you a compliment. I really appreciate the information that you're giving in reference to political census.
Oh, thank you.
As well as the general census, for the people
Yes.
of this country.
Yes.
We got 50 states in this country, and I really appreciate that information that you're giving. I know at this time a lot of people in general are upset or confused, hypothetically as well as being assumptionable.
Mm-hmm.
And we need direct information like the information that you're giving.
Thank you.
That is going to take us, to the next step.
Yes.
And to be able to understand, because I say that because a lot of us are not capable when it comes to the technology of texting and things like that, sending, telephone texting and the issues dealing with the technology.
Right.
So we have to hear your voice. We have to hear your voice, and you're doing a good job, when it comes to advancement, as well as information that most of us need to.
Thank you.
To understand to hear. And, we got enough criticism going on, and, we point fingers and this and that. That's just causing stress, but we need to hear the type of information you're giving, like the information you're giving, in general for the people to really understand, especially those who are not capable with the modern day technology.
Right.
So, we get on the phone and we wait to be heard, however. But I think you should put a lot of emphasis on our fitness also. So, and I appreciate you taking my call.
Okay, brother. Thanks for calling, okay? Thank you. Thank you. We have any more callers, JT?
No.
Okay. All right. So let me get to these other stories here. I want to squeeze in 2 other things here in the remaining time we have. Number 1, new information dealing with the small business loans came out. Okay, then I want to go to the story quickly dealing with early data shows coronavirus infecting and killing black people at an alarming rate. But you've heard me talk about the money available for small businesses. If we look at the article from Washington Post, March 26, 2020, what's in the $2.2 trillion coronavirus Senate stimulus package? What's in the $2.2 trillion coronavirus Senate stimulus package? And we know there's a lot of money here for small businesses. So NBCnews.com has a good article from, I think this was April 4th. Thousands of applicants, zero loans. Thousands of applicants, zero loans. Trump's small businesses lending program is a failure to launch. Now, this was written by Stephanie Rule of MSNBC. And you see Stephanie Rule, you see on Velshi and Rule, she has about 15, 16 years in the banking industry. So she knows this information. My degree is in business administration. So that's why a lot of stuff, I understand what's going on because of my background in business. So one day after the launch of a $350 billion loan program designed to rescue millions of small businesses pummeled by the coronavirus pandemic, technical glitches continue to cripple the ability of the nation's top lenders to begin processing the loans, throwing into doubt when any of the applicants will start actually receiving any money. Now, we know in the city of Detroit, is reported, Mayor Mike Duggan talked about this, it's over 300 businesses that have applied for this money, okay? Just in the city of Detroit. But when we look nationally, the lending program, which forms part of the $2 trillion Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So it's called the CARES Act. That's the actual name of this $2.2 trillion bill. It is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, we also refer to as the CARES Act. So the lending program, which forms part of the $2 trillion CARES Act, is a much needed lifeline for the 30 million small businesses around the country. It offers loans of up to $10 million to companies who employ fewer than 500 people. Those loans are forgiven as long as the businesses meet certain conditions, such as using the majority of the funds to pay workers' salaries for the 8 weeks following the loan closing. However, two of the nation's biggest banks say they have only just been able to start processing loans. Chase senior executive, a senior executive at Chase Bank told NBC News, "We are all waiting on the Small Business Administration." We are all waiting on the Small Business Administration, the SBA. So Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase received tens of thousands of applications within hours of the program's launch on Friday, 2020. Senior executives at both companies told NBC News. Bank of America reported receiving over $22 billion in requested funds. Wells Fargo Bank, which appeared to have a late start, on Saturday, April 4th, 2020, opened a portal where customers could register and get an email back that said, quote, "with next steps within a few days," end quote. Now, Citibank's website said, quote, "applications will be available shortly," end quote. So to begin the lending process, small businesses must submit their application via an online portal on their bank's website. A banker then conducts a phone call with the applicant. However, there's no way in the hastily fashioned system for the bank's computers and the Small Business Administration, which administers the Paycheck Protection Program loans, because that's what these loans are. Part of the $350 billion set aside for small businesses, part of that is the Paycheck Protection Program loans, okay? So there's no way in the hastily fashioned system for the bank's computers and those of the Small Business Administration, which administers the Paycheck Protection Program loans, to talk to one another, okay? Bankers have resorted to entering applicant information by hand into E-Tran, which is the proprietary system used by the Small Business Administration to guarantee loans and generate loan numbers. With banks reporting tens of thousands of applications just in the first day, the system is already overwhelmed. The Small Business Administration usually processes about 60,000 loans in an entire year. They're processing, they've had to process tens of thousands of applications in the first day. The system is overwhelmed, just like the systems are overwhelmed on the state's websites where people filing for unemployment, like the state of Michigan. State of Michigan website, Michigan.gov, was down for service this weekend. Okay, so one of the tips that I've heard experts give for filing for unemployment is try to, when you go to the website to file, try to do it after 8 p.m. Okay, because there's less traffic then. So check out the rest of this article here from NBCnews.com entitled "Millions of Applicants, Zero Loans. Trump's Small Businesses Lending Program is a Failure to Launch." That's at NBCnews.com. And then also look at the update from Washington Post. More frequently asked questions, more FAQs. Here's how to get a small business loan under the $349 billion aid bill. This is from March 31st, 2020 from the Washington Post, written by Aaron Gregg. More FAQs. Here's how to get a small business loan under the $349 billion aid bill. And also you can go to SBA.gov, and right on the home page they have a section for coronavirus. Let me know how much time we have, JT. So if we look, what'd you say? Okay, so if we look at Essence.com, picked up this article from ProPublica, ProPublica.org, and ProPublica had a big article dealing with the impact that coronavirus is having on African Americans. Essence.com is an article from April 5th, 2020. Early data shows coronavirus infecting and killing black people at alarming rate. So as data slowly rolls in about where and who is impacted by the coronavirus, it's becoming quite clear that black communities are at a higher risk. Now, just a few weeks ago, you had all these conspiracy theorists and, people that said they would doctor this and doctor that and all this stuff, said black people can't get coronavirus, right? Everything has been put on hold in the United States as the coronavirus continues to ravage the country, but early data shows that the black community is facing infection and death at an alarming rate. A new report from ProPublica highlights how the virus has spread at ProPublica.org. A new report from ProPublica highlights how the virus has spread at a higher rate in the African American communities, listing limited access to health care, economic, environmental, and political issues as factors. Well, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Politics impacts where hospitals are, the communities and counties that hospitals are in, and funding for hospitals. We see that if you look at the, we know that the census is taking place now, right? There's a census every 10 years. That's based upon Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, okay? But there's an annual census report that comes out in every September. The annual census report deals with income and poverty, things like this, right? And we saw that in the census report that came out September of 2019, we saw that there has been a reduction in the number of people who have health insurance. And it's basically so the less people who have health insurance now than in 2016, December 2016, last full month when President Obama was in office. And we also know that the Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. That's what the Affordable Health Care Act did. So we see that the virus has spread at a high rate in African American communities, and what was listed as contributing factors are limited access to health care, economic, environmental, and political issues. Many African Americans are also unable to stay at home as their jobs have now been deemed essential. So if we go back about 2 weeks ago, I did a broadcast dealing with how only about a third of Americans can work from home. But African Americans are overpopulated in jobs where they still have to work, and they're deemed either essential. They work for the post office or something like that, UPS, okay? But also those on the front line in the industry, or they in service industry, so restaurants are still open, okay? We see this dynamic taking place. Now, it was reported earlier this week that African Americans make up 40% of COVID-19 deaths in the state of Michigan, but African Americans are only 14% of the population in the state of Michigan. In Chicago, African Americans make up 29% of the population in the city of Chicago, but they're 70% of the COVID-19 deaths. And then we see in Charlotte, North Carolina, we see that the virus is disproportionately affecting African Americans there as well. Okay, then MichiganRadio.org has the article, Black people are 40% of COVID-19 deaths in Michigan. What does that mean? That's from April 5th, 2020. Okay, look, hey, we have to get out of here. You can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, or paypal.me/the AHN Show through PayPal. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button there. All of my DVD lectures are there, and digital downloads also. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Talk to you next week. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. Peace.